Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. This video is going to be going over the story and ending of Cyberpunk 2077. The beginning will be summarizing the story and how we got to this point on screen. After that, everything is going to be after that screen and all the endings in Cyberpunk. I do want to bring up two important details in regards to these endings, but we'll bring them up when we get to those parts and I'll let you know when those come up. Timestamps are going to be on screen and on the timeline if you want to skip to a specific ending, but if you want to watch the whole way through, let's get started. For the story summary, we start out as a mercenary named V, looking to make it to the top. We have three life paths, Corpo, Nomad, and Street Kid. All have their own intro, but all end with us being best friends with Jackie. These all converge at the first mission we do when we save that woman that was kidnapped and put in the ice bath. We and Jackie have the same goal, become legends and make it big. Our dreams start to become reality when we meet the famous fixer Dexter Deshawn, who asks us to do a job for a client. Fixers are the middlemen between mercs and clients, which is why he gives us the job. We're to find and obtain a robot called the Flathead and meet a woman named Evelyn Parker at Lizzie's bar. These two end up being setup missions as this leads to the big heist of getting the biochip from Konpeki Plaza at the penthouse floor, which is owned by Yorinobu Arasaka, son to the current leader Saburo Arasaka. The plan fails very fast as Yorinobu chokes out his own father and T-Bug is discovered in the net and killed. We and Jackie wing it and decide to run. Us, Jackie, and the biochip are hurt, and the only way to save the chip from malfunctioning is to put it in our own heads, as it needs to be in a contained environment with a specific type of temperature. This leads to a heated firefight through the hotel. We then escape, but Jackie doesn't make it. We almost didn't make it if it wasn't for the chip, as Dexter puts a bullet in our brain and dumps us at a landfill. We're then saved by Yorinobu's guard, Takamura, who takes our side in believing the tragedy that occurred. The interlude with Johnny and what Victor tells us provides more context to the story. Johnny back in 2023, with the help of Rogue and some friends, raided Arasaka Tower and detonated a nuclear bomb in the tower. Johnny has always been anti-corpo and hates all these big tech companies that rule Night City, Arasaka and Militech to name a couple. He thought blowing up the main headquarters would put a stop to it. He was clearly mistaken, as Arasaka has not only recovered but grown since the tragedy. They then torture Johnny and put his mind in their soul killer program. So cool, we have an angry rocker boy in our head, except he's trying to kill us, unintentionally of course. Obviously having two people in one body is not safe for the body, and on top of that the biochip is slowly eating away at our mind. Eventually we'll lose our hearing, then our sight, then we die. We can see how bad it gets in game as we constantly have times where we faint, have seizures, or just cough up blood at random moments. So now the game has gone from trying to be the top merc in Night City to trying to not die from a piece of software. We're currently scrambling for ideas. Takamura suggests asking Lady Hanako's bodyguard to see Lady Hanako herself. Takamura believes that if we can get her attention, she'll listen to us, except that backfired, so we have to take some more aggressive means. Meanwhile, Rogue provides us with the info on Hellman, the man who created the chip, so if anybody knows how to disable it, it'd be him. Hellman sadly won't help us as we have an experimental untested version of the chip, so he doesn't even know what to do. Previous chips were just able to save pre-made engrams and have conversations with them. This new chip allows the engram to host a new body. This will make sense in one of the endings later, so no worries if that confuses you, as this specific chip was commissioned by Saburo himself. To make matters worse, Hellman isn't a part of Arasaka anymore, so he can't go back and test these things either. The quest then starts to become split, so it really doesn't matter which one you take on. We then visit the Voodoo Boys, ignoring the fact that they tried to kill us, and we enter cyberspace and see the memories of Johnny and Alt. Alt was the creator of Soul Killer, which allowed her to flee to the net forever and leave her body behind, which is what we see in Johnny's memories. So real quick to recap what we just discovered, Alt made the Soul Killer program. Hellman designed the physical biochip. Johnny got saved on an engram after he was captured thanks to the Soul Killer program. They made Hellman make the biochip as a test run to see if their current experiments would be successful. That experiment was to see if they could make immortality. This experiment was commissioned by Saburo Arasaka himself, as it's obvious he's very old and doesn't have much time left. The reason we need Lady Hanako is because Saburo is dead, Yorinobu would clearly disapprove of our quest, and Lady Hanako is the only one with enough authority to truly know what Soul Killer is and won't kill us on sight. That's how Johnny got put in the chip, why he shows up when we put it in, and our reasoning for visiting all these places throughout the game. In cyberspace, Alt tells us that all the minds that Soul Killer has collected are stored inside Mikoshi, a large server in Arasaka Tower. Of course, the only person capable of telling us how to get into Mikoshi is Lady Hanako, so we stage a kidnapping during the parade. To successfully do this, we need to find the netrunner and hack into the systems to disable the alarm, so Takamura can peacefully talk with her, but that backfires, so we gotta bounce. We then reconvene in a nearby apartment, but that also backfires, and we have to bounce again. After some time, Hanako asks for a meeting with us alone. After the meeting, we're then at the end of the game. We now come to the 5 endings. These endings are the Arasaka, Panam, Johnny and Rogue, Suicide, and Secret Ending. The Arasaka ending is the default one, so if you did little to no side content, this is your only option available to you. This ending has you agree with Hanako's plan, it's more of a give and take. She shows the board members of Arasaka how terrible their current leader Yorinobu is, so that she can take the throne and we get the surgery so we don't die. We collapse in an elevator and awake in a room with scientists. This room is on the spaceship called Mikoshi. It's actually possible to see Takamura throughout this ending before we collapse, assuming you saved him in the ambush, but seeing as I honestly didn't notice that we could even do that, he doesn't appear for me, but he could obviously appear for you. It starts off with simple things like cognitive and physical stamina test, and it's constant. Day after day, test after test after test after test for who knows how long we do this. One thing I didn't mention though is the hologram before the elevator scene, as this is relevant now. Hanako shows us this twice. I talked before about the current version of the biochip that Hellman made was more of a digital version of the person, which allowed people to speak with others who passed away. But that's it. Since Saburo is a digital engram, he has no power. Even though he's alive, all he can do is talk. So he needed the test version, which we put into our heads, which allows him to actually inhabit a body. And we know this works because Johnny can inhabit our body when we take those pills. For other forms of media, for this to make sense, think of the primes from the recent season of The 100, or pretty much the entire plot of Altered Carbon. Thanks to us, Saburo Arasaka will never die. He will just inhabit another person when the body's time is up. As while the body is dead, his conscience and soul isn't, allowing him to keep on living and living, with the same memories and thoughts, just a different body. Like I said, these outside forms of media are super helpful in explaining the plot twist ending, so if you are slightly confused, I highly recommend them. Especially since Altered Carbon has a cyberpunk theme to its setting and can technically be seen as the sequel to this ending. We can see other world leaders giving their thoughts on this idea, and they are fully disapproving of it, while Saburo is explaining that it's all legal thanks to a ton of legal loopholes. We are then presented with two options. Sad news is, we're not gonna live. Everything we did was for nothing. Hellman, who apparently got his job back, offers up a contract to join the Secure Your Soul program. Should we sign, our body is now within Soul Killer. This means our soul and mind is locked up like Johnny's, with the promise of being reborn again in a new body like Saburo. Should we disagree, we are given roughly 6 months of life with no chance of surviving. If we disagree, we are sent back to the earth, living our lives until death. V sings a song by Samurai called Never Fade Away, which talks about, well, never fading away, just like the title. We take one last look at Earth, knowing everything we did was absolutely useless, and that while we get to go home, we won't be home for very long. If we join, we're hooked up to a machine to begin the Secure Your Soul program procedure of putting us into Soul Killer for us to be reborn later. The song Never Fade Away plays again while we sit on the operating table. When these endings finish, all we get is voicemails from the people we have met, whether they are important characters like Panam and Judy, or side people like Perales that we may have never met. This is the first important bit of info I want to talk about that I mentioned earlier in the video. While I will be mentioning minor portions of the voicemails, I'll be going more in depth with these in a future video, as I plan to release a companions lore video detailing the many characters we meet in Night City, like Panam, Carrie, Judy, Johnny, River, to name a few. I'll bring up more notable voicemails from time to time in this video, but I'm not going to dissect everyone all the time, as that will be saved for a future video, and most aren't too important anyway to understand the ending. But for Arasaka's ending, if you don't sign, most of the emails are about people missing you and wondering where you've been. If you do accept, it's roughly the same. Our second endings are with Panam. This is only available if you've fully completed Panam's quest lines. We, Panam, and the Aldecados join together to breach through Arasaka and find Mikoshi. Lots of lives are lost throughout the way, but we ultimately push through and fight Adam Smasher. He appears as the end boss in the first three endings, Arasaka, Panam, and the Rogue ending. When we connect to Mikoshi, we're given the choice of keeping our body or having Johnny inhabit it. Those are our two choices. If we keep the body as V, we get arguably the best ending in the game, where Panam and V and the remaining Aldecados leave Night City and find new life elsewhere. Night City isn't really worth our time anymore, and besides, we did cause some major havoc with Arasaka, so we definitely need to flee if we want to make it out alive. If we choose Johnny to inhabit our body, we get a whole new ending with him as V permanently. The idea is this: one person goes in cyberspace with Alt, the other goes into the body of V, and as we said before, the body can't have two people in it. The first option with us leaving with Panam to go to Night City was V taking control of the body, Johnny going to cyberspace. This one is V in cyberspace and Johnny taking control. We don't look like Johnny, remember, as it's still V's body, but we're playing and acting as Johnny like we've done many times on some of the side missions. This shows small moments with Johnny and the neighbor Steve, taking him to a local guitar store to play some Silverhand music, then visits a columbarium, which is kind of like a cemetery. In 2077, you write the person's name on a tagline inside the container and some personal belongings. We can see all the characters that have died that we have met, people like Evelyn, Jackie, and tons more. Jackie says "Good night, sweet prince," which is a reference to Hamlet by Shakespeare, where Hamlet dies in Horatio's arms, in which that phrase is muttered. Hamlet dies in Horatio's arms the same way Jackie Arasaki died in ours, which I thought was a really cool reference. It's definitely recommended to do this ending if you've done everything so you can see all the burial sites in game. I also wondered if these boxes have to do with killing people. CD Projekt Red months ago said that the endings of the game may have to do with how many people you kill. Maybe that meant the named boxes that we see or all the boxes in general, but I'm rambling. This ends with Johnny giving V his bullet charm back and taking a bus away from Night City. For the voicemails, especially if we go with Panam, most are normally talking about how our life in the desert is. People like Mitch are relevant as they were in the fight, and Saul doesn't appear for obvious reasons. I'm unsure if it's just strictly Panam or because in my game she was my romance lover, but she is super pissed at Johnny for taking V away. Whereas the opposite, she's talking about being late to camp, as remember we left with her and the other nomads, so she's been with us the whole time. The third endings have a bit of an explanation to them, but let's get there first. The third is where we agree with Johnny to have him take over and go with Rogue to finish what they started 50 years ago. We round up Rogue and Waylon and attack Arasaka Tower again with some new toys and gear. This ending provides arguably the best weapons to keep after the credits roll, so if you care about new gear and weapons, maybe you want to do this ending too, as these weapons are really powerful. Once again, we fight Smasher and we see Rogue die, but continue to fight with Waylon to defeat him. This ending gives us the same choice as the second one, who gets the body. Choosing Johnny once again gives us the previous ending with Steve, with small details like giving Rogue her gun as a burial option. If we give it back to V, he becomes the Legend of Night City like he dreamed. But as V, we end up taking on our final mission from Mr. Blue Eyes, where we go to space to assault the Blue Palace, the biggest casino in the world, which is located in space. Truly a ending to our legacy. This may be confusing, so let's draw this out. These dependings all depend on two things: who is the host of the body when we get to this point in the mission, and who gets it at the end of the mission. In ending 2, we as V decide who takes the body, V or Johnny, as we're the ones who inhabit it in the beginning. But in ending 3, it's Johnny's decision as we let Johnny take over, so Johnny gets to decide who gets the body, V or Johnny. No matter what the circumstance, if Johnny inhabits the body at the end decision, we get the ending with Steve. If we play as V and continue in V's body, we get the Nomad ending. But if we as Johnny choose to give V his body back, we get the previous ending we just talked about. The reason V's endings aren't the same compared to Johnny's is because of the circumstance. Johnny got to be real good friends with V and also wanted to stay in cyberspace, so no matter what happens, that was his plan for both endings, was to visit his grave. For V, his goal has always been the top merc in the afterlife. With Panam's ending, we don't get that option as we leave with the Nomads, but with Rogue, we literally stormed Arasaka Tower. Just like it made Johnny a legend 50 years ago, it makes us a legend today, which is why those endings are different. I assume we'd still be a legend in Night City, considering in both endings we stormed the tower under different circumstances, but with the one with Panam's ending, we don't get to see that praise and fame that comes with it as we leave the city. Minus a few minor things like slightly different wording, the voicemails are basically the same for both 2 and 3. For ending 4, we get the worst ending, which is the suicide ending. This is done by selecting one of the previous 3 options, then choosing the second guess option of where we just put it all to rest. This gives us the 4th option of suicide. This makes sense as an ending. Every ending we've done, somebody dies. Rogue and Saul died a Smasher, as well as the others who have died along the way in the other endings. This ending stops that from happening. We're dying, and it's a heavy burden to have people die for us, even though it was our fault we're in this mess in the first place. So let's solve both problems. We know we're gonna die anyway, so let's die with having nobody else die for us. This has Johnny and V have a heart-to-heart about life before pulling the trigger and ending his life. The voicemails are tragic. Everyone is heartbroken. Some are even angry at you. Judy just getting over the loss of Evelyn, someone who literally killed themselves not long ago, is now witnessing another friend do the exact same. Carrie was majorly depressed in some of the dialogue that we find, and even considered killing himself as well, so he knows how terrible it is to do such a thing, and is mad at you for even doing this. Like I said, some are angry, but most are just paying their respects to you. It's a sad ending, and it really shows the repercussions of suicide.
I don't think you knew just how many friends you really had.
The last ending is the secret one, and the last thing I want to mention in this video is that this one is very complex. According to CD Projekt Red, it requires a certain amount of affinity with Johnny. I can't explain what specifically to do, but I will give you 2 most important things that either seem to be the only things that matter for this ending, or the 2 that are definitely the most important, as affinity could mean anything. Is it every conversation with Johnny we've ever had, main mission, side mission, gig, anything, as that could probably take months for someone to fully understand it. But the two most important ones I found are completing the samurai storyline, which is meeting with Rogue to find info on Smasher, have a date with her, get the band back together, and play one last gig. The other is the gravestone portion. When you and Rogue try to find intel on Smasher, you visit Johnny's grave, you must say the line, "The guy who saved my life." There's a ton of other dialogue that may or may not matter, but I followed the guide on rpgsite.net, so shout out to them. If you want to try this for yourself, I'll leave a guide in the description down below if you want to answer exactly what me and them said, as we both got the scene to work using this. I noticed the badge at the top with the samurai logo said 70%, a number I didn't know you could reach as I kept getting 60, so I'm assuming 70 is the minimum to get this. I'm not sure if there's a higher number than 70 yet, as I haven't discovered this, but it's possible. Afterwards, to trigger this, you must choose the Johnny and Rogue option, then sit and wait at this screen for almost 5 minutes. Johnny takes the silence as you're undecided, so he offers you an alternative, possibly dying in a blaze of glory by going right through the front door of Arasaka HQ, and doing it yourself. It's the most badass ending as you are literally soloing a mega corporation. This is easily the hardest mission in all of Cyberpunk. Every enemy has red skulls and they all killed me in 2 hits on easy difficulty. If you die, that's it, and it rolls credits. This option and the suicide one are technically one and the same, as you basically give up your life. It was either by you doing it yourself or dying to Arasaka. The voicemails are going to be the same, but here's the thing. I don't have the ending if you succeed. Actually, I don't think anybody on YouTube has the ending at the time of making this video. Currently, it's been less than a week since Cyberpunk has been out at the time of making this. A small amount of people have beaten Cyberpunk, an even smaller amount of people have gotten the secret ending, and I would say maybe less than a dozen people have actually beaten the ending. This isn't to gloat, but I feel like I'm the only person on YouTube at this current moment that I've seen so far who has the footage of the fight. I've seen no videos or screenshots of this mission at all. The only source I have for the endings is rpgsite.net once again, but this is without any proof of screenshots or videos. I'm not saying don't believe these endings, but I always like to see proof to claim that it's real. The endings are essentially the ending 3, the Rogue option. At the end, we get to choose who gets the body. If we choose V, we get to become the Legend of the Afterlife, where we go to space and attack the casino. If it's Johnny, we get the Stevie ending again. This ending is the same, but the beginning is massively different, as you can already see. Look out in the future, as I plan to grind this game to 100% to be able to tackle this quest. I was only level 25 when doing this footage on screen, so I'm hoping by level 50 these won't be Red Skull enemies, and even if they are, I'll be well more equipped and prepared to kill them. As I said, this is the hardest mission in Cyberpunk, as this is literally a solo raid. Just be prepared in the coming weeks when I'm hopefully able to actually tackle this and show actual footage of the choices from this ending. I apologize if you wanted more footage than something other than the first room, but honestly, it's fucking hard. With that, we come to the end of the video. Let me know your favorite ending or the ending that you got in the comments down below. Like I said, look out for both the secret ending gameplay and the lore video on the main characters in the game coming in the next few days or weeks, as those will both take some time to do. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe and all that beautiful stuff, and goodbye.